Welcome to day 3 of the 7-day Book of Mormon challenge. I hope you're having an awesome week. I know I am. And it's not too late to follow along. If you go to my Instagram at Tamara L. Mack, you click on the Walk With Me highlights, and there you'll see all the details you need to know to get started and have the best week of your life. And that's what we want. So today's challenge is for you to read 1 Nephi chapter 16. And this is a story about life's broken bows. So, you know, when you're like living life, you're just minding your own business, doing your thing, everything's great. You're on the lazy river, and then something comes along and just wrecks everything, messes it up, right? Ruins it. It's those hurdles in our lives, those stumbling blocks, the bumps in the road that feel more like boulders, right? So this is a story for you if you've ever felt like that happens to you, which happens to everybody. This is a story about Lehi and Nephi and his family. And Lehi has just found the Liahona, that curious ball of workmanship that points them in the direction they should go, and it guides and directs their lives and answers their questions. It's just awesome, right? And so they're off in the wilderness, and they've got their slings and their stones and their bows and their arrows, and they're hunting food, and they're just finding food everywhere, and they're eating, and they're happy. Life is good. And then the problems come, right? Elder Richard G. Scott does a great job at explaining this whole scenario. He says, just when all seems to be going right, challenges often come. When those trials are not consequences of your disobedience, they are evidence that the Lord feels you are prepared to grow more. That's awesome. He therefore gives you experiences that stimulate growth, understanding, and compassion, which polish you for everlasting benefit, to get you from where you are to where he wants you to be, requires lots of stretching, and that generally entails discomfort and pain. And that's not fun. Nobody really wants that, but it's a part of life, right? So what happens next is that Nephi and Lehi and his family are going to stretch. They're going to be stretched. They're going to experience that discomfort and that pain because Nephi's steel bow breaks. Whether it's wear and tear or it's erosion or corrosion from the high temperature or high humidity, I don't know, whatever. But as a result, Nephi cannot find food. Now, have you ever been around people who are hungry? Think Fast Sunday, like a couple minutes into Fast Sunday, a couple hours, right? And it's like everybody loses their mind, like they're starving. They've never eaten, right? And food is the only thing people think about it. And it's really hard. Fasting is not easy, right? But when people get hungry, they sometimes get angry. And so we call that hangry, right? And it's not fun to be around people who are hangry. Well, Nephi's around a ton of people who are super hangry. In fact, his older brothers, Laman and Lemuel, and the sons of Ishmael are ticked. They are ticked. In fact, what's so funny about this story, though, is their bows have lost their springs. Like, it's, how's that fair, right? But they don't care. They are super mad. They are really mad at God, and they are really, really mad at Nephi. But that's not really the worst part. The worst part is Lehi, the father, the leader, the prophet, the Lama. He starts to complain and murmur against God. And that must have been like super hard for Nephi. But then Nephi does something remarkable. If you read in 1 Nephi 16, verse 23, he says, and it came to pass that I, Nephi, did make out of wood a bow, and out of a straight stick an arrow. Wherefore I did arm myself with a bow and an arrow with a sling and stones. And I said unto my father, whither shall I go to obtain food? That's the cool part. Nephi could have just gone and figured it out on his own because he wasn't complaining. God would have totally answered him. But instead, Nephi does the right thing. He does the most awesome thing. He becomes a Lama. He goes to his dad and he's like, Dad, I know that you know where to find food. And I know that if you pray, God will answer you. So where should I go to find food? And what does that do for Lehi? Totally redirects him. It totally points him back to God. It reminds him that he's the dad, he's the father, that he's the leader, the prophet, that he's the Lama. And he gets on his knees and he asks God, and God answers. And because of that, Nephi knows exactly where to go to get food. That is the best, coolest part of this story. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So what do we learn from this awesome, powerful Book of Mormon story? We learned that hard times happen all the time and can happen to anyone, right? That even when, and especially when we're trying to do what's right, challenges come. We learned that stretching and pain and discomfort are all a part of life. In fact, Nephi teaches later in all of his wisdom and his experience in 2 Nephi 2:11 that there's opposition in all things. We learned that everyone has their moments, and I love that. I love that everybody complains. You know, everybody has their weak moments, even great people like Lehi. That makes me happy. I don't know why, but it does. We learned that murmuring really just doesn't do any good. I mean, listen, full disclosure, I can be a little bit of a complainer, not a huge one, but just a little bit. And my husband's not, and he just doesn't complain, and I do, and sometimes I like it. You know, it feels good for just a minute, right? But then I've realized, and I've learned from him that you got to stop. You know, it lengthens your journey, it wastes your time. It's not good, and it doesn't solve any problems. So get over it, right? Stop and move on. We learned that we can be lamas, that we can be the one that gathers everyone around, that leads and helps people and shows them the way and shows them how to follow God. We learned that prayer works. I've said it so many times in my videos, and it is the truth that if you ask God, if you ask him, he will answer you. And lastly, and probably most importantly, sometimes, or not sometimes, all the time, you just just get to work and go make another bow. Dennis L. Largy, he is an author and he's a professor of ancient scripture, said the coolest thing. Now listen to this. He says, God does not always stop our bows from breaking, but he does help in the construction of new ones. Mic drop. I mean, that's it. That's it. I love it. I love it so much because, listen, I have had broken bows in my life. And I know you have too. We all know what that feels like. But I know, let me say it again. I know that God will help construct new ones and that he will come and answer our prayers and make everything right. This is the lesson. There's so many lessons, but this is another lesson that I want you to get from today's reading, today's challenge. And I hope that you will read this and love it. And I can't wait to see you tomorrow. And I want you to know that I am just loving you. I love you. So see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Shamalama.